work with him, and it's been a great ride, but it does not surprise me at all.
Peter, let's take a look at this series. You've got a Cleveland team that's very, very good. Their pitching is a little banged up, but they are a really good team. They dominated Boston. They dominated Toronto. What's your take on how this World Series will go? You've seen both teams a lot.
Well, I do think that there's been a lot of tendency to say, well, the Cubs are going to win easily. I don't think anybody beats Cleveland easily. I mean, first of all, they were the second best team in the American League during the season. They won more games than the Red Sox or Blue Jays during the regular season. I don't know why they were such underdogs against them, except for maybe the injuries. But they're very tough, and the bullpen is great. The big thing with them is they get leads. I mean, they lost the game in Toronto, Game 4. They didn't have the lead in that. For 1/2 an inning, the Red Sox led them in Game 1. Otherwise, they led all the way, which meant they could basically use Andrew Miller and the rest of the relievers in any way they wanted to use them. And I think it's going to be very important in this series as well. But they do a lot of things very well. They can really run the bases. I mean, Mike Napoli said to me, you know, when we struggled early, we all got together and said, you know what, the way we're going to score runs is to really run the bases well, and they're the best base running team in baseball, which will be interesting tonight. And they hit, you know, their power. They were second in the American League in home runs, second in extra base hits. They had just as many extra base hits during the season as the Cubs. It's a very intriguing matchup. They're very tough. The thing is, and normally I laugh when someone says, well, the first game is really important. I do think it is important. I think that all their base running that they do so well, from Rajay Davis to Napoli's a great base runner, but Lindor, that matchup with Lester is an interesting one. Now, I'm a huge John Lester guy, having known him as well for a long time. And he not only is a tremendous pitcher, but he is a survivor. And the stolen base percentage against him was just about league average. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. I think it's very important for the Indians to be able to win 1 or 2 games here and take it into a long series and try to have Andrew Miller be a dominant guy in 4 or 5 games. I think that's really important. I think the Cubs have the ability with their starting pitching to blow the series open, but I think the Indians are almost impossible to blow a series open against.
Peter, before we let you go, how do you have this thing shaken out? Cubs win this thing, the Indians win it, what happens?
I think the Cubs win it. I think they win it back here, which just, if I can be talking about personally rather than professionally, I would love to be in Wrigley Field where the Cubs won the World Series. But it was good enough. I was writing back at home plate when they won the pennant, so I guess I'm lucky enough to have that. But I do think the Cubs are going to win, and I think the starting pitching is going to enable them not to get behind the way Toronto and Boston got behind against them.
Appreciate your knowledge. Keep up the great work. We'll see you inside in the stadium. Thanks a lot. There he is, Peter Gammons, the Hall of Famer. Todd Hollinsworth, my partner on Cubs Pre-Post, 96 National League Rookie of the Year, joins us. Okay, so we were all discussing Kyle Schwarber and that factor. John Lester, can they run on him? What's the big keys for you tonight?
Well, I really do believe, in my mind, it's what the Indians do against John Lester when they do have a base runner on. And it's not the stolen bases. It's actually what John Lester typically becomes, and it's his command. I mean, we've talked about it, his ability to dominate 60 feet 6 inches all season long, getting the guy out in the box. But if some runners do get on, it's not the fact that they can steal bases. That doesn't bother me one bit. It's, is he executing pitches? Because typically what ends up happening in those situations, even though he's got a tremendous slide step, is that you become a fastball pitcher. You're less inclined to, throw the big slow breaking ball. You don't want to. So as a hitter, if in fact they do rattle him a little bit, maybe he becomes that. And do the Indians become a better offensive team knowing that they're sitting on some fastballs?
Howie, on the Schwarber thing, when injured players spend a lot of time around the team, they become invisible in pro sports often. That didn't happen with Kyle Schwarber. Why do you think that didn't happen, and how surprised are you that a guy is coming back? I mean, when you remove all the drama and all the romance, it's still less than 7 months after an ACL surgery to repair his knee?
Because he made this a personal goal. I don't believe this was anything that was driven by the organization. This was driven by the player and explains the player. And I think it explains the love affair with the player. It explains the city's love affair with the player. That's who Kyle Schwarber is. It's that smile. It's that who he is. It's that maybe that, short, little stocky guy that we all seem to love.
And can relate to.
Hey, man, I'm telling you, there's something about it.
It's Chicago.
It is what we love about him, and the fact that he's put himself in this position. He didn't orchestrate this. I mean, the organization didn't. He did. He picked up the phone and said, hey, I just got out of the doctor's office. They said I'm good to go. Just so you know, can I go down to Arizona and take a few swings? Wait a minute, you haven't played all year. I'm ready to go. Send me down there. Let me get some at bat. I mean, this has all been driven by him. I love it, and I think it's just an incredible opportunity for something really cool to happen to a guy who I think would just. Can you imagine? I'll put it this way: if he hits a home run in tonight's ball game, does anybody believe the Cubs will lose this series?
No.
I mean, are you kidding me?
What's it gonna be like when he steps in the on-deck circle at Wrigley to pinch hit? I mean, people are gonna go nuts. I mean,
Pinch hit. He may be in left field.
He can do no wrong.
Catch.
Can he fail this situation? Can he?
I don't think so.
I don't think he can either.
He can. No.
I thought about, and I was telling you this a little earlier today, and I think it's an interesting dynamic. Kyle Schwarber's on the roster. He's in the lineup tonight. What are the Cleveland Indians thinking about this? They're like, Kyle Schwarber, wait, what?
Right.
Who's hitting fifth?
Yeah.
Like, I used to tell you about what Tommy Lasorda used to do when I was a Dodger. He was the master of distraction. We would go into Giants, we would go play the Giants up in San Francisco. Tommy would go in there, whooping it all up, screaming and yelling at the Giants fans. But he did this very deliberately because they'd all start yelling at him. And it just took all the pressure in the world off of us. In this situation, so much is being made about this Schwarber miraculously getting back out on the field that it's become somewhat of a distraction.
By the way, you're looking live inside right now. Kyle Schwarber about to step in the cage for his beat.
See what I'm saying? I mean, that's the point.
Exactly.
This is, and I believe Kyle is the type of personality that can shoulder this responsibility, that he can be a positive distraction that just kind of lets everybody walk into this World Series and say, you know what? This is just like the NLCS. Let's go play ball, boys.
And while everybody's making this the Kyle Schwarber game, this could become the John Lester game.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I think it's a very real possibility. Sometimes distractions are really, really good. And if he goes, and I've been telling people, please don't judge Kyle Schwarber by tonight's ball game. He's going up against Corey Kluber. Corey Kluber is one of the best right-handers in the game. And if you think he's going to go 2 for 4 with a home run, maybe he does. But if he doesn't, it doesn't mean that he failed this. He might be great tomorrow. It's the fact that he's back, and I think that's what you jump on, and that's what I think we all should be getting excited about, is the fact that somebody has dedicated the last 6 months, probably every moment of his life, to getting back out on the field.
It's really. Could you think of any corollaries to this? I mean, can you think of anything that you've seen like
the natural?
This? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Unbelievable.
I mean, it really is. I mean, I don't know what else to say because more times than not, players. I mean, I've been injured before, and I've tried as hard. In 04, I tried everything to get back from a broken leg.
Right.
I did.
You broke your shit.
Right, I couldn't
and
run.
the Cubs said you were day-to-day for
and I was trying to get back, and I kept trying to get back, and I couldn't run. I couldn't. And the bottom line is, I couldn't get out of the tunnel, and that's really what he's been able to do. He's gotten himself to the point where he trusts the fact that he can play the game of baseball with a knee brace on. Not a lot of guys can do that. It's not the injury that I'm concerned with for Kyle Schwarber. It's the fact that he's going up to hit with his big bulky knee brace underneath his uniform on. That's the thing
right,
that's
but
weird.
we've seen other athletes, one maybe playing in the building across the street, who were cleared and there was no shot.
I don't think Kyle Schwarber can do a crossover right now
again.
either.
Well, I'll tell you, all it takes is one moment and he wins. And honestly, I think he's already had the moment.
I think what your point is about how he dedicated himself to coming back. He fits in so well. People can relate to him. That's what's made. There's no teammate looking at this and saying, "Oh boy, he's batting where I want to bat. He's coming back and taking something away from my spotlight." That doesn't happen because he blends in so well and has such respect.
I totally agree. Absolutely agree with that.
That's not always the case, though, in professional sports.
I think Miguel Montero might want to DH.
But this goes all the way up to the top. I mean, you guys remember when the Andrew Miller discussion popped up and Kyle Schwarber's name was out here?
Like, no way.
Well, think about it like this. I mean, you have a player on your roster who's out for the season. He's blown out his knee. He's not coming back. And you've got the opportunity to go get one of the game's greatest arms in a bullpen right now. You can have it right now for a player that...
And 2 more years of control.
For a player that can't do anything for you right now. In Kyle Schwarber, think about that for a second. And they still said no. What does that say about Kyle Schwarber and what they believe about him? He really doesn't even fit on this team. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He's not as an outfielder, right?
On a team full of versatile guys, he isn't versatile at all.
He really isn't. I mean, it speaks to who he is as a person. It speaks to who he is as part of the Chicago
elite
culture.
hitter, too.
That's a fact. There's no doubt about that. But making him fit on this team is difficult to do sometimes when you look at what they're supposed to be defensively and how versatile they're supposed to be. He's not our first baseman. We know that, right? He's going to be an outfielder, and maybe a catcher. And you've got to question that right now because he's got a knee brace on, for crying out loud. So I don't know how the fairy tale ends as far as what his career in Chicago is, but I will tell you what, for this moment in this day, I'll tell you, it doesn't get any better, does it?
It's awesome.
It is awesome.
All right, we got an interesting pitching matchup. We've talked about that. It's also an Indians team. Francisco Lindor is as good a shortstop as there is in baseball.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he's going to be a guy who breaks out for the Indians. You're going to learn a lot more about him. People may not know a whole lot about him but he's dynamic. His past with Javi Baez is very interesting. That's a good backstory to this series. But they have a lot of players like that you may, if you're a White Sox fan, you're familiar with the Indians, but I think America's going to see how good he is.
When you look at Lindor, that's who Hoyer and Jason McLeod wanted him so bad in San Diego. Hoyer was the GM and worked him out himself. Flew down to Florida, and I talked to him yesterday about it for a story I just put up. He said it was the best interview and the best workout he's ever seen in his life. He said, I have a total man crush on Lindor. And guess what? The Padres didn't like Baez because they thought he was too swing or miss.
They were not going to take him.
They weren't going to take him. Jason McLeod said, he goes, listen, I saw a game where he had 3 home runs, and I saw a game where he had 5 swing and misses against subpar high school pitchers. Now Baez is the MVP of the NLCS for him, brings him to a World Series, and they got to face Lindor. Fantastic story.
And the other funny thing was that they said they compared Baez as Russell Westbrook with all the flash and everything, and Lindor's a much more like Steph Curry, just do the right things, make the open shot, make the play.
A little more substance, not as much style. I mean, Javi has substance, but I think it was he's got a little bit more, he's more flamboyant. Lindor just not.
They're here because of Francisco Lindor. I talked to people in the Indians organization last year, all the way up to Terry Francona, and they said, you would not believe the impact this young player has had on our organization, top to bottom. They run to his personality. He actually has been leading this team in a lot of ways.
He's 22.
He's 22 years old, but he has been a leader in that clubhouse, an outspoken leader in the clubhouse. A lot of what went wrong for the Indians last year, he showed up on the scene, started playing great baseball. It started to kind of transform the culture in the clubhouse a little bit. Here we are talking about the Cleveland Indians in the World Series. He's a huge reason why they're here.
All right, go back in your trailer.
I will.
The staff will bring
Me and
you
Rhino,
back
we're in the heated
for
car.
post-game at the top of the hour.
Sounds good.
Thanks. There he is, Todd Hollandsworth. All right, we got to take another timeout. Again, Progressive Field right behind us. It may be chilly in there, but it will be loud and rocking. Cubs will look to win the city of Chicago's first World Series title since 2005 when the White Sox won it all. At least we think they won the Fall Classic that year because the national media seems to have forgotten that fact. Are Sox fans right to feel slighted? And should they root for their crosstown rivals or an AL Central rival? We'll talk about that next when STL from the World Series continues from Cleveland, Ohio.
How's it going? Hi. Today we're going to be comparing the roll-form steel bed of the Chevy Silverado to the aluminum bed of this competitor's truck. Awesome. Let's see how the aluminum bed of this truck held up.
Oh, wow. That's a good-sized puncture. You hear aluminum now, you're going to go, ooh.
Let's check out the Silverado's steel bed.
Wow. Yeah, a couple dents. I'd expect more dents.
It's Truck Month. Make a strong decision. Find your tag and get over $11,000 total value on this Silverado All-Star.
Here's some information. We have the right amount of beer taps. If we had any more, the kegs wouldn't stay fresh. Any fewer, and we might not have that beer you like on tap. The one you can't pronounce, so you just point. We've got all that and more, which makes us pretty confident. We've got that confident look in our eyes, the squinty one with the furrowed brow, because of the taps.
From the state of California, guacamole and chips. From Wisconsin, a cheese plate. And from Louisville, Kentucky, pan pizza.
Yeah, this is normal.
Better game days call for better pizza.
Introducing our new pan pizza, loaded with cheese melted all the way to the edges to create a thick golden brown crust. Your choice of 3 toppings for $10.
Better ingredients.
Better pizza.
Papa John's.
Welcome back to the Mitsubishi Outlander Sport Network, everybody. 20 minutes till sundown. Will they make it? This might be a good time for all-wheel control. There's the decision. Off-road we go. With a 2.4-liter engine, they're powering into that final stretch. What a finish. This broadcast was brought to you by the new 2016 Mitsubishi Outlander Sport. Make your drive a sport.
Max Madden Mitsubishi's fourth quarter final drive event. 0% APR for 72 to 84 months. Stackable loan rebates topping $1,500. Cash buyers save $5,500 to $7,500 in rebates and discounts.
11 years ago today, Jeff Blum became a household name forever on the south side of our great city. His 13th inning home run in Game 3 of the 05 World Series set up Mark Burley's inebriated save and helped the White Sox to a 3-0 series lead. The next day, they would clinch their first World Championship since 1917. Or we think the Sox won the World Series because few people seem to remember it happening. Yesterday, CBS This Morning tweeted this photo of Wrigley Field saying it's prepping for an event Chicago hasn't seen in 71 years, the World Series. Then last night on SportsCenter, they made a graphic of the championships won by Chicago and Cleveland since 1965. The 6 Bulls titles, 3 Blackhawks Cups, Bears Super Bowl, no White Sox. So, should White Sox fans feel slighted? I say yes. They accomplished something we haven't seen in over 200 years of baseball. They did it. The other team hasn't yet nobody gives them any credence.
Totally agree with you, Cap, but I think asking if a White Sox fan should feel slighted is sort of they do by nature.
Right, that's true.
It's sort of a natural reaction. You're going to feel slighted in Chicago if you're a Sox fan. When you see that stuff on television, the national media, it is infuriating because it's just like, oh my gosh. You know, they just did it 11 years ago.
I think, for me, and we know this in journalism, shows a lack of quality control, a lack of they don't have Chris Kamka apparently over there. The ESPN laid off the Schwab a couple years ago. They don't have the crack research team. It's journalistic laziness, and that's why it bothers me a little bit, right? Like
it's the definition of out of town stupid.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, journalistically, but you know the Sox fans, they're always like it's always kind of looking up. And even when the Cubs hadn't won, they're still kind of looking up. And it's sad, but Cubs fans don't care about Sox fans. I mean, they don't care about the White Sox. And the whole identity of the White Sox is, we're here, hello, hi, we won a World Series.
I watched them win at a bar in Wrigleyville. I did that as a story. Me and 50 other reporters were doing that as a story that day. But like watching it, and it was not crazy there. I mean, there were people in some of the bars, like sluggers, but some of the bars were like not that packed for that World Series.
Well, there are bars in Chicago right now that have signs saying "Go Indians," you know, let's go, and the people on the South Side are rooting against the Cubs.
There's some McNally.
It's McNally's
has the sign.
Right.
He'll root for the Sox, and they would play in the Cubs, so they started a Kickstarter campaign, a GoFundMe, to buy McNally's to knock it down.
I mean, you get that sort of, don't you?
Yeah. Let them take it out on ESPN, okay? Not on us. We had nothing to do with any of this stuff.
I said to Kipnis yesterday, I'm like, your friends that are White Sox fans have to be the happiest people on earth right now. And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, I didn't have to sway them at all.
But if you're a Sox fan, what do you want? Your division rival to win another World Series to show how far back you are?
I get it.
I think it depends. Some fans are.
I get that.
But there's a lot of Sox fans that aren't like.
It's lose-lose.
There's Sox fans that are enjoying this team.
Did they even watch this?
Yeah, there's
if you're a baseball fan, you watch the World Series. All right, we take a timeout. Hall of Famer Ryne Sandberg will be with us out here, so we'll get to Rhino right after this. There's Javi Baez warming up in the stadium. He's getting ready. Another great second baseman, but not as great as the one that'll be on our panel here in just 2 minutes.
How's it going? Hi. Today we're going to be comparing the roll-form steel bed of the Chevy Silverado to the aluminum bed of this competitor's truck.
Awesome.
Let's see how the aluminum bed of this truck held up.
Wow. That's a good-sized puncture. You hear aluminum now, you're going to go, ugh.
Let's check out the Silverado's steel bed.
Wow. Yeah, a couple dents. I'd expect more dents.
It's Truck Month. Make a strong decision. Find your tag and get over $11,000 total value on this Silverado All-Star.
We asked people to write down the things they love to do most on these balloons. travel with my daughter.
Roller derby?
Now, give up half of them.
Do I have to?
This is the tough financial choice we could face when we retire. But if we start saving even just 1% more of our annual income, we could keep doing all the things we love.
Prudential, bring your challenges.
If you live in here, you love it here. Yeah, if you visit, this where you wanna live. That's how it's done Chicago style. That lake sure look like Chicago smile. And all the while,
standing on your big shoulders, steady through all types of weather. I have pride and do nothing but love for you. Stay here forever.
No one delivers more in-your-face hockey than NHL Center Ice and NHL Network. With up to 40 star-studded games a week all season long, bringing you closer to every goal, every save, and every hit that fuels hockey's biggest foes. Feel the power of controlling the most hockey on TV, and let the game live where you do. Order NHL Center Ice. For a special early bird offer, call 1-800-GET-SPORTS.
What time is it?
I think I know what it's time for.
If your family is complete, the safest and most effective form of birth control is a vasectomy. Call today for a same-day consultation and procedure in one of our 3 state-of-the-art facilities.
Daddy, how are baby made?
I can tell you how they're not made.
Advanced Urology Associates. Safe, simple, and effective.
Hey, we had some special guests drop by the set earlier this afternoon as we were getting ready. Some wise guys brought a few goats over. Funny stuff. We'll see who's laughing after game 1. And if the Cubs win tonight, it could be laughing all the way to a world title. Check out Stat of the Day, driven by the Chevy Silverado. All-time road teams, 46, 64, and 1 in game 1. Of the 46 road game 1 winners, 56.5% of them went on to win the whole thing. Last team to do it, the 2014 San Francisco Giants. All right, welcome back outside Progressive Field. Time for our poll question. How many wins will the Cubs get in their first 2 games here in Cleveland? How many will they win in the first 2 games here in Cleveland? CSNChicago.com/vote. No cost, no special app. You'll see the tabulation right on your screen. Hall of Famer Ryne Sandberg joins us now outside the ballpark. Rhino, it's chilly, it's fall. This is what World Series baseball is all about. What's your take on the biggest key tonight for the Cubs to go up 1-0?
I think once again it's John Lester settling in, setting the tone. Very good defense behind him, and you know, playing here in Cleveland at their home park, taking the crowd out of it with some offense, and some key hits, key at bats. What I like about the Cubs is that can come from anyone 1 through 9 now in the lineup. It's not on one guy. I mean, it's a lineup that big hit can come from anybody. You need some guys on base early on.
What was your reaction to the Kyle Schwarber news, and what's a realistic expectation for him tonight?
Well, you know what? I think he's a guy that I think he's a born hitter. I think he's a guy that he just loves to hit and can hit. I bet he can hit in January. I really do. I think he's that type of a guy, mentality. I know that the ball club loves having him around, and he's one of the guys. So I think it's a shot in the arm for the whole team. Not facing pitching, live pitching for 6 months, 7 months. We will see. But I think he's a little bit of a different cat. I think he likes to have that bat in his hands, and he's going to create some excitement for the guys and for the lineup.
You know, Ryan, everybody expects in Chicago for him to hit a home run, right? Wasn't that what the poll question said? He might hit a single that could be a double. Now, do you think he'll have a problem running the bases? He's got a big, I don't know how big the brace is, but he does have a knee brace on.
I think that's been talked about. I think that he's been talked about from Joe Madden on down to the medical staff on what to do if he happens to hit a gapper. I don't know that he's thinking 3 out of the box.
No shot.
He's not. So if he happens to hit a gapper, if he can keep somewhat of a straight line, I think that'd be much better than going side to side, and that's why he's not out there in the outfield.
It was interesting to hear him talk about what he did in Arizona. He said the video you saw him hitting the double, that he's a lot more fluid and a lot more mobile than maybe that implies. Still, that's been a long layoff, so you just don't know until he has to do it.
You really don't, but they're asking him to have some good at-bats, put the ball in play. I don't know that they're asking him to take extra bases, or, another thing that could come up is if he's a key runner out there at second base later on in the game. I don't know that he might have problems scoring on a base hit. That might be a chance there for a pinch runner, but I think he's totally aware of that, and he'll be conscious of that.
By the way, 69% of you say the Cubs will win both games here in Cleveland.
From an opposing manager's perspective, what does his presence in the lineup do to the mindset, how you approach the rest of the Cubs batting order? Does it?
Well, you know what? He just adds another left-handed bat in there. They got such good balance of the right-handed bats, left-handed bats. He's just a threat. He's a threat to drive the ball out of the ballpark, even on a night like this.
It's a home run. Can you imagine how ridiculous this will be?
It'd be fitting, wouldn't it, with the Cubs season?
Yes, it would be.
I mean, the fact that he's even in the lineup and ready is so fitting. I mean, just another weapon that the Cubs have come up with over the last couple of years, these young players. He's going to be a big piece, going forward. So it's great to see him with the guys in this atmosphere going forward, and not only for the series.
Who does this weather? It's chilly. Who does this weather? It's going to get colder. Who does this favor? Pitchers, because it's harder to get loose. Hitters, it hurts their hands. How would you say you played? I mean, what does this favor?
I would say that it's somewhat individual, depending on the pitcher, depending on what kind of stuff he has. Sometimes a guy with a real good breaking ball, sometimes the ball will tend to slip just a little bit more, and he'll try and make an adjustment to that. They can blow on their hands now, which you can warm up your hand, and it'll be very warm in the dugout with the blowers going on. So quick innings on defense will definitely help the hitters. Not standing out there a long time, but we're only talking it's 50 degrees. I mean, I played in 20 and mid-20s and 30s and snow flurries. I hated cold weather. So to answer your question, I didn't like it as a hitter. But there's also more technology with what the guys wear. It's lighter, and it keeps you hot. I had 2 or 3 of the old-fashioned thermals on and an old turtleneck dickie. No wonder I couldn't hit in April. There's too much clothing on. But
all right, what's your prediction? What happens this series?
This series here, I mean, I have to like the starting pitching for the Cubs, and a lefty and a righty back-to-back, 2 aces. I got the Cubs taking the first 2 here.
Okay.
And then we're talking about the whole series.
Yeah. Quick pick. We're out of time.
Cubs in 6.
Cubs in 6.
3. Cubs in 5.
There you go. He said 3. All right. We'll see you later. We got pregame coming up. Don't forget postgame out here. STL back here tomorrow. Have a great night and go Cubs. See ya.
How's it going? Hi. Today we're going to be comparing the roll-form steel bed of the Chevy Silverado to the aluminum bed of this competitor's truck.
Awesome.
Let's see how the aluminum bed of this truck held up.
Wow. That's a good-sized puncture. You hear aluminum now, you're going to go, ooh.
Let's check out the Silverado steel bed.
Wow. Yeah, a couple dents. I'd expect more dents.
It's Truck Month. Make a strong decision. Find your tag and get over $11,000 total value on this Silverado All-Star.
Esurance does auto insurance a smarter way. They offer a claim-free discount because safe drivers cost less to insure, which saves money. And when they save, you save. That's auto and home insurance for the modern world. Esurance, an Allstate company. Click or call. Esurance does auto insurance a smarter way, like their photo claims tool. It helps settle your claim quickly, which saves time, which saves money. And when they save, you save. That's auto and home insurance for the modern world. Esurance, an Allstate company. Click or call.
It's the Fall Blowout Used Car Event at Alpha Body Ford in Melrose Park. Cars and trucks as low as $99 a month, like this F-150 for only $99 a month. Or this Nissan Sentra, you guessed it, only $99 a month. Plus hundreds of other used cars and trucks to choose from. Winter is coming, so don't get stuck in the cold. The Fall Blowout Used Car Event, this week only at the original Alpha Body Ford, 25th and North Avenue in Melrose Park.
Next year is now, Cubs fans, and CSN is complete World Series Game 1 coverage. Who has the edge? Cap, Holly, and Rhino break it all down for you. Plus player interviews and Joe Madden's post-game thoughts on Cubs Postseason Live, starting tonight at 6 on CSN. Friday night, the IHSA football playoffs take center stage on CSN with a huge Class 8A matchup as the Lyons Township Lions invade DuPage County to battle the Naperville North Huskies. Lyons Township at Naperville North. Playoff football starting at 7 on CSN.
And he will hit a ground ball towards short.
The Cubs have won the pennant! The Cubs are going to the World Series! The Cubs win the pennant!
Cubs Postseason Live, presented by Fields Auto Group.
495 guy, he's got a great slide. Secondary pitch to the making. All right, Cubs and Indians, Game 1 of the World Series, and it kicks off tonight at Progressive Field here in Cleveland, Ohio. And welcome into our Cubs Postseason Live, brought to you as always by the great people at the Fields Auto Group with Hall of Famer Ryan Sandberg and my longtime partner Todd Hollingsworth. I'm David Kaplan. All right, guys, we dreamed about it. 71 years in the making. Rhino, Todd, you guys both wore this uniform, and here it is. It's finally happened. Can you believe we're at the World Series and the Cubs are playing?
I couldn't believe it's Sunday. I walked around.
I know, I
and
woke
was
up
thinking,
and,
okay.
how weird is
and
this?
I kept saying to the people that I was around, the Cubs are going to the World Series. We're going to the World Series.
It's crazy.
So all of Sunday, I thought about that, and then Monday, with the team getting here, and then the workout starting, and seeing them getting out on the field.
It's crazy.
And then just remember how they played all year long. Then it really settled in, right. and I do believe it.
I think I'm more amazed at, we talk about families and, those, family members who are no longer with us. You look at what, the Cubs organization is, the history behind all of it, the millions of people who have supported this franchise through all those thin years. I look at the group that's on the field right now, and I don't think there's one guy for 1 second that is surprised that they're here. I do not believe that about this team. I think they see this as their destiny. They expected to be here, and they didn't know it was going to be Cleveland. But knew that they were going to be here and plan on being here for many years to come. I mean, I really do. I think those of us, the journeymen, we've kind of seen it. I came here with that same hunger. It wasn't a reality for my group, but this group, they believe it.
All right, time to let you know how to get interactive with our show. CSNChicago.com/vote. In a couple minutes, we'll bring you a live fan poll question. You can vote on and see the results as they tabulate right on your screen. CSNChicago.com/vote. Now time for our ATI injury report. The injury news, all good, man, considering Kyle Schwarber, after tearing his ACL and LCL in the third game of the season, everyone in the organization expected Schwarber to miss the entire season. But his rehab is so ahead of schedule. Slugger played 2 games in the Arizona Fall League over the weekend. He's been activated to the Cubs World Series roster. He's in the lineup batting 5th in DH for Game 1 of the World Series. For more on Kyle Schwarber, Kelly Kroll has your Coors Light game report from inside Progressive Field.
Well, Cap, playing in the World Series wasn't even a possibility, said Kyle Schwarber as of 6 days ago. The Cubs, of course, had to make it. He had to be cleared, but after all his hard work, it paid off this morning when he received a text from first base coach Brandon Hyde, who sends out the Cubs lineup every day, and today his name was on it. A very good and rewarding feeling, he said, after what has been a grueling and now remarkable rehab stint.
Probably hasn't hit. I say probably once I hit that line, a lot of emotions will come pouring out. I'll probably cry at some point today. it was a long road.
Just 2 weeks ago, Cubs president Theo Epstein said he couldn't envision any situation where Schwarber would make a 2016 return. But a recent progress report from the Slugger's doctor put that thought on hold.
Knowing that I had the opportunity to try and get back, it would kill me deep down inside if I didn't. And I knew going into it, there was no guarantees of I'm going to come back and be on the World Series roster. I didn't do it for this reason. I didn't want the media attention. I don't want any of that. I did it for my teammates. I did it for me too. That's the competitor in me. Like I said, those guys, it's a special clubhouse we got, and that's why I did it.
And it was that special group that kept Schwarber's spirits up, especially on days where he was down. And in return, he paid his teammates back with his blood, blisters, sweat, and tears.
Those guys were pretty much my big rock throughout this whole thing. You want to be there to help these guys put smiles on some faces, but, that's what they were doing for me, really. They were there to comfort me throughout this whole ride. And, I can't thank them enough. I can't thank them enough. Can't thank our staff enough. Can't thank the organization enough. They did a really good job of keeping me involved and making sure that I came in with the right mindset every day for rehab.
The last 24 hours have been a whirlwind for Schwarber, who played a game in Arizona, iced, then boarded a private jet, he said, to fly here into Cleveland. He came straight to the ballpark to get an idea and a sneak peek as to what the atmosphere will be like here tonight. Then he went back to his hotel in hopes of getting to bed early, where he said he did not sleep a wink. His mind was racing, but he, along with the rest of these Cubs players, I'm sure will be playing on straight adrenaline tonight when they hit this World Series stage, Cap.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Now time for our Cubs fan poll question to vote. CSNChicago.com/vote. No special app, no cost. Just visit that website, get interactive with us. We're asking this. Do you think Kyle Schwarber will be productive at the plate in the World Series? Yes or no? CSNChicago.com/vote. Todd, how do you vote?
Well, if you're asking me to vote tonight, I'm not sure I want to vote tonight, but I think on the whole I would like to vote. I mean, I guess that's really what it comes down to. I don't know if that's the victory. I mean, I love the question because I think that we have, we build in expectations. Kyle Schwarber, 5 home runs, 9 postseason games. I think most of us just pick the story right back up where it left off, but I don't think that's the fair thing to do. Kyle Schwarber hasn't played all season long. Let's be realistic here. But I'm not going to stand in his way. He may have a moment. Do I expect him to? I probably expect him to do something. I don't know if it's going to necessarily be game-changing, but I don't believe that's the victory. For me, personally, the victory is that he's in uniform and playing tonight. And if I'm a Cubs fan or a former Cubs player, I'm impressed at what he accomplished.
Rhino.
I think he's an instant threat to the opposing pitcher out there. If he can work some at-bats and really make the pitcher work a little extra because he's who he is and he's a threat to go deep, I think that'd be a positive. So I think it just... He changes the look of that lineup as a guy that can go deep, and you have to be careful with him. I think that puts a little bit extra pressure on the starting pitcher.
Holly said earlier that when he played for Tommy Lasorda, Tommy would rile up the Giants fans. He'd do whatever so that all the attention was on him. They would just go play. Does this move take all the pressure off everyone else? Because that's all everyone else is talking about is Schwarber.
Maybe for a day. But you know what? This team has been asked the questions all year long from spring training, and whether it's pressure or not, or the attention, whatever, they've dealt with all the attention about the Cubs and the history and their expectations. I don't think that anything like that's a big deal to the players. These guys are young. I think they
embrace
enjoy
the target.
I think they enjoy the attention because they handle it very well, and they're all on the same page. That's something that I always comment is. They always talk about their teammates and they talk about the uniform and the team. You never hear individual talk with these Cubs.
It's about
I
the
love
team.
that. Love it.
Let me make one more point on Schwarber because I think Rhino would probably agree with me. We go to spring training, year after year after year. Hasn't it been in some spring trainings like, the first game that you play, you're like, boy, I'm locked in. You hit one right on the screws that first game. The second game, you say, boy, this might be a different spring training. Like everybody thinks that you go to spring training and you play a week's worth of games before you find your swing. That's not always the case. Sometimes you get down there and your work's right, and you get in there and you get that first good fastball, and you line it right back up the middle, or you shoot one in the gap, or maybe you even hit a home run. We see it all the time in those first games of spring training. Who's to say that Kyle Schwarber can't do that tonight? Because I think the tough question for us all to answer is who is he? Like, what's his timing going to be? And I don't think he even knows that yet. But he may find out in there that he might be early on 94 because he's just seeing the ball that way, and he may give us a moment.
Yeah, that ball might look like a beach ball coming in. You just never know.
You do not know. It's so hard to peg what I think Schwarber could potentially be tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think I'd be shocked if he just started swinging a bat on Saturday. I mean, he's been with the Cubs. They have a facility
he's
there.
Definitely kept it quiet. He's been hitting.
He's got a bat at home. He's got a couple bats at home.
I'm sure
been
he has.
Swinging in closets.
It's probably timing pitches off the TV is what he's been doing.
Probably, no question about it. All right, 53% of you say yes, he will have a productive World Series batting for the Chicago Cubs. All right, now time for our Ameristar Casino Resort starting lineups. Let's take a look at Joe Madden's lineup card when he trots out the home plate, game 1 of the World Series. Here's what he'll turn in. Dexter Fowler's in center leading off. Brian at third hitting second. Rizzo's at first hitting third. Zobrist in left hitting fourth. Schwarber DHs in the 5-hole. Baez 6-hole playing second. Chris Coghlan getting a start in right field, the 7-hole. Addison Russell shortstop in the 8-hole. David Ross catches in the 9-hole, and the man who will pitch will be John Lester. All right, boys, let's talk about Chris Coghlan. I did not want to see Heyward in the lineup simply because he needs to rework that swing. Did not expect Chris Coghlan would be the guy. What do you guys think?
Well, you want to go?
Go ahead, Ollie.
I like the move. Cogs is a good player. We certainly have seen him. He had a big September. Now, granted, this is a bit of a surprise start against Kluber. Now, I'll say this. Historically, he's 1 for 3 against him, so he's got a little bit of history there. And he had, 1 base hit against him. With that being said, it's not a lot. But at the same time, I played here. I'm a former Indian as well. As you know, I'm a former everything.
Is there any team you didn't play for?
There's a few. I played both of these corners, and I know them very well. And they're not complicated. They're actually quite easy corners. So, I mean, you're not
easier than L.A. or San Francisco?
Absolutely easier, no doubt about it. The tough position at this park is center field. The center fielder has so much responsibility, both to his left and to his right, because the dimensions of the way they are. You do have that big wall in left, but again, it's short for a lefty, or for a left fielder. He doesn't have too much to worry about as far as caroms. Same for the right fielder. It's the center fielder who's got all the work in this ballpark. But as far as Cogs, I like the idea that you're giving him the start, but it also plays back into being able to control Jason Heyward. And what I mean by that is Joe Madden can bring him into the ballgame to pinch run, to play defense, and control when he comes into the game while not strapping him with those big at-bats. And I think that's it. I think Cogs is in the better spot. You can make the argument, should it be Wilson Contreras? Part of me thinks that it's, Coughlin's the better defender. Maybe just as simple as that, and that he's a left-hander. But that's the way that I see it, and I think it really does still come back down to Jason Heyward being able to, be controlled late in the ballgame. You still want him out there, and I think he's going to be a factor late.
I like Coghlan in that 7 spot. They might be asking him to just put the ball in play, battle at bats. Might be a situation where they just need a ground ball to the infield to move a runner. He battles his at-bats, and being left-handed tonight against this righty, I like it. And he plays a fine outfield. He's not a Gold Glover like Jason Heyward, but I like the fact that that he can put the ball in play in a situation to help the team. It might not be a base hit, or it might be a base hit driving in 2 runs, but anytime you put a ball in play, you give your team a chance and base runners to move up or even to get a guy in from third base.
All right, let's take a look at Tito Francona's lineup card that he brings out to home plate tonight. He'll have Rajai Davis in center, Kipnis at second, Lindor at short, Napoli at first, Santana's the DH, Ramirez at third, Geyer in left, Chisenhall in right, Perez catches. Let's talk, though, about Jason Kipnis, the second baseman, a Chicago kid from Glenbrook North High School in Northbrook, rolled his ankle the day they clinched in the celebration. It was a grotesque injury that 6 days ago, you looked at the pictures of his ankle and you thought, no way that guy can play. He says, nothing will keep me from the World Series. This is a tough task to play at this level anyway. With a bum ankle, how tough will that be for him?
Yeah, it's a tough break for a fine second baseman and a fine, scrappy player. I've admired his play. I mean, that's a tough one to be celebrating and then severely sprain your ankle. Come with the World Series right around the corner. Could hinder him. He is a base runner and a potential base runner, stealer type of a guy. That might slow him up there, but also playing second base. So I just have to wait and see with my own eyes how he's moving out there. But he's a gamer. He's a tough little at bat. So he's in there, but unfortunate situation for him.
Good to see the alarms are going off. Anyway, what's your take on what this does in this lineup? Look, Rajai Davis can steal, he can run, and they are really excited to try and disrupt John Lester and steal some bases. What is your take on what's going to go on there with this lineup?
I don't really, here's the thing. I mean, Davis is an interesting example of what, like to me, you can almost pick that matchup and say this entire game's about this. Davis has got great numbers against John Lester. He's also stolen 43 bases this year. He's a great base runner. He always has been. He's a 300 career hitter against him. But with that being said, I look at how John and this Cubs team has defended the stolen base and the run all season long. I know that this is being played up because the Cleveland Indians stole 134 bases, and they're one of the best base running teams in all of baseball. I've seen many teams go first to third. I used to practice it myself all the time. Always wanted to take that extra base, steal a base. But of the 28 stolen bases John Lester gave up this year, not one of them was up home. So I guess that's my point. He continues to dominate the 60 feet 6 inches between home and the batter's box, and I think you're going to see more of that. And if the Cubs are playing with the lead, that shuts down the running game. It's as simple as what we've seen all along. You ask me the Dodgers series, they're going to go after John tonight. They're going to try to steal bases. I mean, how did that work? They went out there and started dancing around. They didn't run. They didn't do anything of it. Now I think the Indians will run. But if David Ross throws out the first two guys that run, how many more times do you think they're going to run before they stop?
Be real careful or get backpicked.
It's what we've watched all season long. Nobody has changed that story yet.
All right, got to take a time out. A lot more to do. Alongside Ryan Sandberg, Todd Hollingsworth, I'm David Kaplan. We'll come right back. We're outside Progressive Field, World Series Game 1, getting ready to start. We'll talk about the pitching matchup next.
Cubs Pregame Live is presented by Fields Auto Group. Fields matters because you matter. See Fields first. FieldsAuto.com.
I'm Dan Fields of the Fields Auto Group. We've prepared a Joe Madden Signature Edition vehicle. It will be raffled off at the end of the season, with the proceeds going to many of Joe's favorite charities.
But not before I have the pleasure of driving it to and from the ballpark. Thank you, Dan, and everyone at Fields Auto Group for this special vehicle and for making this all possible.
For official raffle rules and complete details on how you can win this Joe Madden signature vehicle, go to FieldsAuto.com.
It is an honor for Fields Auto Group to help good causes like Cubs Charities and Misericordia. Fields matters because you matter.
Speed always wins, especially in my business. With slow internet from the phone company, you can't keep up. You're stuck, watching spinning wheels and progress bars until someone else scoops your story.
Switch to Comcast Business with high-speed internet up to 10 gigabits per second.
You wouldn't pick a slow race car, then why settle for slow internet?
Comcast Business, built for speed, built for business.
Welcome to the Apt Showroom, one of the top appliance retailers in the U.S. Explore our full line of Thermador appliances that will inspire and empower you to imagine design and bring to life your dream kitchen. Our team of product experts will work with you, your builder, and designer from the very first sketch to the very last detail. Discover how Thermador is personalized to the way you cook and bring the ingredients of entertaining to life. Visit us at Apt, pleasing people since 1936.
You know the feeling. The rush of every roll, every flip, sip, bite, note, and night. You know the feeling. Get it at Ameristar.
Baseball is better in ballparks like this. Baseball is better during the day. And baseball is best of all when you win. That ultimately is why I'm here today.
There he is, Theo Epstein. He uttered those famous words 5 years ago today. And now the Chicago Cubs are in the World Series Game 1 tonight against the Cleveland Indians. Don't forget, when the game goes final, you come on over if you're here in town, come see us, or you can dial it in right at home on CSN and watch Cubs postseason live with me, Rhino, and Holly. Time now for our Apt Electronics and Appliances pitching matchup, and it is a really good one. Corey Kluber, who has a Cy Young Award, John Lester, who may win it this year. Kluber may get a second one. Really interesting. Kluber's 2-1 in the postseason, an ERA of .98. Lester just as good, 2-0 with an earned run average of 0.86. For more on tonight's starters, we send it to our guy, Luke Stuckmeyer.
All right, thank you. It is John Lester and Corey Kluber in Game 1. They have been the two best starting pitchers this entire postseason, both with ERAs below 1 in their first 3 playoff appearances so far this postseason. Now, John Lester, of course, has 2 World Series rings. He and David Ross forming the battery tonight in Game 1 here. Just the 3rd battery since 1940 to start Game 1 of the World Series for 2 different teams, and their time together in Boston has prepared them for this huge spotlight here in Cleveland.
The guys early on, like a Kurt Schilling and a Josh Beckett, watching those guys perform in the postseason and their track record, just seeing how they went about and prepared. They prepared the same way for this start as they would, for a regular start during the season. So I think for me, that's where I learned and really kind of bought into the routine thing. You have a routine, you have this stuff that you're supposed to do day in and day out to prepare your body and to prepare your mind for these moments. And I feel like when I'm in that routine and I show up, now it's the fun part. Now you get to pitch.
Now Lester's 0.86 ERA this postseason has been the best so far, but Corey Kluber's 0.98 is the next best. He has been great in Game 1 this postseason. 7 shutout innings against the Red Sox in Game 1 of that series. 6.5 shutout innings against the Jays in the ALCS. The Indians ace says he won't be rattled at all by the pressure of this huge stage tonight, and neither will his teammates.
I don't know if it's just the group of guys we have are able to handle adversity well, or I think we also over the last couple of years realized that that's the kind of baseball we need to play to be successful. Everybody kind of realizes that we each have our own job. It's not one superstar going out there and carrying the team, and I think that we've just kind of, I guess, in developing a culture of the team, that's been part of it.
And guys, Lester in his career 7-1 in 15 regular season starts against the Indians, but of course this is much different. It's the World Series, and after winning the National League pennant, he's one of the first guys that mentioned to me on the field already turning the page to the World Series, and that's just one more reason the Cubs made him the highest paid pitcher in franchise history a couple years ago. We'll send it back outside to you.
All right, thank you, Luke. So we have a real good pitching matchup. You've got Corey Kluber and you have John Lester. Let's start with Lester talk. Rhino, this guy was brought here for this type of reason. Yes, we want you to pitch well in the regular season, but he was brought here to pitch big games in October.
He's had a heck of a year, and he's had a heck of a postseason. The other thing that he's got going for him is David Ross. I think they're a tremendous team.
Comfort zone.
Unbelievable. Rossi's like a coach behind there. I thought the last game with the base runners and guys jockeying around and guys trying to bunt and fake bunt, I thought Rossi had some very good meetings at the mound just to remind him, hey, don't worry about that. Focus on what we're doing here, you and me right here, work with the mitt. I think they're a tremendous tandem, so I give the edge with Lester just because of David Ross and they're so comfortable together.
I give an edge to the 15 career starts that he's made against the Cleveland Indians, the 7-1 record with a 3 ERA. Just speaks to more John Lester, what he's been throughout his career. He's got history here. He's comfortable on this mound. It's one dynamic that I talked about coming into this series is that these two teams didn't play each other this year. There's always kind of familiarizing yourself with Corey Kluber and Andrew Miller and guys that you haven't seen before. There's that feeling out process typically in games 1 and 2, but for John Lester, settling in here in Cleveland should not be a problem whatsoever. Like I said, he's made starts against them. He's got history against these guys. He's got 50 at-bats against Rajai Davis. He's got 8 at-bats against Jason Kipnis. He knows these guys. This isn't, who are the Cleveland Indians? He's not working through trying to figure out who these guys are. So he already knows his game plan. I expect him to go out there and execute it as he always has. You're going to see a heavy dosage, heavy cutter usage tonight, especially with some of those powerful right-handed hitters.
All right, another timeout. We are here with Cubs Postseason Live outside Progressive Field. We'll talk about Corey Kluber and a whole lot more. We're getting you set. Cubs, Indians. Game 1, 2016 World Series. We'll be right back on CSN.
Some things are simply impossible to ignore. The strikingly designed Lexus NX Turbo and Hybrid, the SUV that dares to go beyond utility. Lease the 2016 NX Turbo with zero due at signing for $429 a month for 36 months. See your Lexus dealer.
This rusty mess isn't going anywhere. Don't trust it to just any cleaner. Trust CLR. CLR makes quick work of the toughest jobs, dissolving crusty white buildup so your shower runs like new. CLR cuts through hard water buildup and helps keep your washer running clean. CLR also earned the EPA's Safer Choice seal, so it's safer for your family. Trust the power of the CLR family and trust your clean to CLR. CLR is available at these fine retailers.
Attention patients who were treated with a drug from the antibiotic group known as fluoroquinolones, or FLQs. If you or a loved one took the antibiotic Levaquin or Avalox prior to March 1, 2014, and then suffered an aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, or peripheral neuropathy, your voice deserves to be heard. Call the Rely On Group at 800-238-4813.
With Mario Perillo, Mr. Italy, and Alitalia, you don't have to...
Remember my dad? He'd be proud that we've added custom-designed Italy vacations to our legendary escorted tours. While generations come and go, some things never change, like the quality and value that we provide on all our tours.
Call now for your free brochure at 800-324-4051 and get your DVD and a free subscription to the Perillo Traveler magazine. Call in the next 30 minutes, and when you travel with us, get this free $100 travel card. Call 800-324-4051.
We are 42 minutes until the start of the game. Still time to give Feldco a call, 866-4FEL-DCO. John Lester becomes the first Cubs pitcher to start a World Series Game 1 since Hank Borowy took the mound against the Tigers back in 1945. Among the other Cubs starters in the opening game of the Fall Classic, Charlie Root, Hippo Vaughn, and Mordecai Three-Finger Brown, who did it way back in 1906. We are now joined by Jeff Passan, Yahoo Sports, one of the most connected baseball writers in the country, author of a great book called The Arm. All right, the Cubs, the Indians. It's a great thing for baseball. I don't think anybody at the start of the season thought both would get here. The Cubs had the target, but both being here is pretty cool.
You know what? I think there were a lot of people who were high on the Indians, and understandably so, because they had Corey Kluber, they had Danny Salazar, they had Carlos Carrasco, they had Trevor Bauer. Two of those are gone now. And I guess Danny Salazar is sort of half back. We don't know if he's going to be here. But the fact that the Indians have reached the World Series essentially on the strength of a really good bullpen, just enough hitting and strong defense, that's the fascinating part.
Unbelievable.
I mean, look, the Cubs being here, they should be here. They've been the best team in baseball this year. They're the most talented team in baseball. They're well managed, well run. They have a well-oiled machine going. But then again, you got a 5-game series and a 7-game series to get here. And it's a total crapshoot. It's a toss-up, and that's the beauty of baseball, and it's why, even though the Cubs are the best team here, they may not win the World Series.
You never know.
You don't.
Totally agree. Jeff, let me ask you this, and I think that there's some maybe applied pressure on this game, probably because of Corey Kluber, and to your point, losing your second and third starter. I don't know how you quantify Salazar yet. I'm not sure you can, really, because you just don't know what he's going to be. To me, it almost feels like a must-win for the Indians tonight. Like, I can see the Cubs winning this series if they don't win this game tonight. But if the Indians don't win this game tonight, I don't give them much of a chance.
I think the Indians need to win the Kluber starts.
Yeah.
And Kluber may end up starting in 1, 4, and 7. That's really their plan at this point. I don't think they want to throw Ryan Merritt out there for another start. I don't think he matches up with the Cubs nearly as well as he did with the Blue Jays.
Right.
The Cubs can hit off-speed pitching. The Cubs can crush left-handed pitching. And so having Corey Kluber out there for 3 games is going to be big. When you have Bauer, though, you don't know how long he's going to be able to last. Josh Tomlin, same thing. And you don't want to wear out that bullpen. They've already taxed Andrew Miller and Cody Allen a lot this postseason. And while those two and Brian Shaw have been very effective, the depth of the Indians' bullpen, once you get down to Dan Otero and down to the lower parts, that's not who you want pitching in the World Series.
Reno, you look at this. Jeff wrote a great book called The Arm, all about John Lester. John Lester was signed for big moments like this. What's your take on the matchup? Because there's still pressure on John Lester to be elite tonight.
No question. This is the World Series, and he's pitching on the road. But he's on quite the roll, and he's got a team behind him that likes to play defense. He needs to pound the zone. He needs to start early on, work both sides of the plate like he does, mix his pitches, take the sting off of the ball, and he's got defenders out there that can catch the ball. And John, that's worked all season long. So I don't think he has to change anything.
Just do his deal.
Just get to work with Rossi, get working, get a little sweat up, and do his thing.
John Lester needs to keep guys off base. That's what he needs to do, because we saw in the Dodgers series, they took 20, 25-foot leads. You two played baseball. Did you ever take a 20 or 25-foot lead on a pitcher in your career?
Right. Well, but the interesting part about it, right, and what everybody's expecting the Indians to do is to take the next step. See, the problem that the Dodgers had was they took 25-foot leads, and they were one-way leads going in the opposite direction, which I thought was so bizarre. I mean, every guy that was out there, Corey Seager's standing out there with a 10-foot lead, but he's leaning towards first base, and his first move was back towards the bag. It's going to be interesting. John, this has been chasing John for a long time. This is not something new that he's run into. All of a sudden, somebody's found some secret, answer to beating John Lester. But the question is, who is going to be the first team to exploit it enough to turn it into a win?
Well, it happened in the 2014 wild card game against the Kansas City Royals. They stole.
But wouldn't you agree that I don't think
since then though you're right.
I just don't know if the A's defended him as well. Like a lot of people, if you watch Cubs baseball, you know that Chris Bryant's part of the solution, Anthony Rizzo's part of it, David Ross and Javi Baez with the snap tag down there at second base.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's such an interesting argument because last year he gives up 44 stolen bases. This year he gives up 28. And, you're saying run on John Lester, and I just haven't seen anybody pull it off yet.
Cap, I was there in spring training, and this was addressed about John Lester and his holding base runners, what he can do about that. He was on the half field. He had a program to go out there and spend some time. He brought in some minor league runners over there. He tried some things. I think he's come a long way with what he throws at a base runner. He's very quick to home plate. He has a catcher behind the dish that throws out. He varies his times that he holds, and he's gotten better at feeling the bunt. He might run it over there 40 feet and hand it to Rizzo, but you know what? They haven't gotten on bunts. So I think he's come a long way with his defense.
The Cleveland Indians need to commit tonight.
Right.
They need to commit to on the first pitch, you go. Because if not, David Ross is going to throw behind you and Anthony Rizzo is going to tag you out. Right. And Joe Madden said pregame today, we have some things in mind. I'm not going to give them away. I'm not going to tell you what they are. But they've planned for this, and that's the beauty of baseball this time of year. We have all the storylines about 108 years and about 68 years about Terry Francona versus Joe Madden, Indians versus Cubs, but it's the little things in this game, something as small as being able to throw over to first base and how you defend not being able to do that, that's going to be the intrigue in this game.
When John Lester was a free agent, you had a unique opportunity, and I asked John about it. He said, there was something about Jeff. I trusted him, and everyone told me you could trust the guy. And he said it was nice to have someone who had no vested interest to hear out all the pitches. So he let you into his world, which he doesn't normally do. You didn't say, I think you should go to Cleveland, Chicago, San Francisco. You just listened, were a sounding board. He ended up picking the Cubs. What was it like going through that process with a guy who had to make a really tough decision and hates change?
Yeah, it was fascinating to get inside the mind of an athlete and somebody who's going to be faced with multiple offers for $100 million plus. And how does he weigh where he wants to go, who he wants to be surrounded with? And with the Cubs, it was a question of, does John Lester want to take that leap of faith? Chris Bryant was not a major leaguer at this point. Addison Russell was not a major leaguer. Javi Baez was a kid who had gotten sent down because he struck out too much. And so you have all these factors. John Lester needed to trust Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer and Tom Ricketts that they were going to build what they said they would. And the San Francisco Giants came in at the last minute with an extra year and another $13 million on the table. And they had won 3 championships in 5 years at that point. But John Lester said, I want to be in Chicago when we win a World Series. I want to see what that's like. And they're 4 games away from that now.
Thank you for your time.
Always a pleasure.
Keep
Thanks,
up the
Jeff.
great work. Again, his book, The Arm, a phenomenal read. You can catch him at Yahoo Sports as well. Another chance for you to get interactive with the show. We'll be right back. Cubs Postseason Live, brought to you by the Fields Auto Group, continues on CSN.
This Cubs injury report is brought to you by ATI Physical Therapy, taking physical therapy to a higher level. Ask your doctor about ATI Physical Therapy. Get there.
When you visit Canals BMW, your toughest decision is which BMW will you drive home? A sporty BMW convertible? BMW sedan? BMW coupe? Or one of these BMW high-performance luxury models? And of course, everybody can get into one of these beauties. Canals BMW. Outstanding selection, competitive pricing, always a great decision.
With robotic technology, we can now regrow your natural hair. And I should know, because I had the same procedure done to myself.
The technology is here. The time is now. Fantastic results, flexible payments. Call today.
Hello? This is she.
Is that the doctor?
Okay, wow, really? It's two? That's great news, thank you.
It's two?
Yes, it's two. It's 2 for 1 windows at Feldco.
Feldco is offering 2 windows for the price of 1, with no money down and no interest until 2018.
2 windows for the price of 1 ends Monday. Hurry. Call now.
For quality windows, siding, and doors, call 866 for Feldco.
Look at it, lads. New York City. Just doesn't get any better than this.
Actually it does. With Grubhub, you can get the best foods delivered anywhere.
Gluten-free pad thai here for Seamus.
I am Seamus.
Gluten-free?
Yeah. Can't even taste the difference. Oh, you gotta lock up that front tire.
For the most Cubs coverage, go to csnchicago.com. Brought to you by Wintrust.
I felt the buzz when I got back to the city. You know, everyone thinking that this was the Cubs year, and you know, they've been obviously playing amazing. So it's great. It's great to be in Chicago at this time. You know, with the Cubs being as successful as they are so far.
There you go, Dwayne Wade. Welcome back to our Cubs postseason live show outside Progressive Field with the Hall of Famer Ryne Sandberg and Todd Hollandsworth. I'm David Kaplan. It's time for Built for Business, brought to you by the folks at Comcast Business. And today we're looking at the numbers Andrew Miller put up in the ALCS, where he was named Series MVP. Lefty threw 7 2/3 shutout innings, gave up just 3 hits, no walks, struck out 14 Blue Jays hitters. Comcast Business, built for business. Time for you to get interactive again with our show. Get your mobile, laptop, or tablet ready. Head to csnchicago.com/vote. No special app, no cost. Visit that website. Get interactive with Holly, Rhino, and me. Now we're asking, which team has the stronger bullpen overall? Indians have Miller and Allen. Chapman looking better for the Cubs. The Cubs have some other arms. How would you vote, Rhino, on that? Better bullpen overall?
Well, you know what? I know the Cubs bullpen a little bit better, personally, and I think they've been very solid all year. I like the way that Chapman got after that last game and closed that out, just attacking the hitters, throwing strikes. So, you know, I still like what the Cubs have, and they have a variety of guys down there. They have some ground ball guys. They have some strikeout guys. They have a little bit of funk down there. So I still like what the Cubs have down there in the bullpen.
Todd? Oh, they have better matchups. There's no doubt about it. But the two guys at the end of the game, I think right now are throwing the ball historically well. That's undeniable. I'm not going to sit here and try to spin it a different direction. I think on the whole, the Cubs bullpen is better. There's no doubt about it. They can match up better, and they're not asked to do as much. The problem the Indians have is that Miller is had to do so much of this. Cody Allen, I mean, really do it all. I mean, the fact that they're, you know, you threw the numbers out on Miller, which is what he's been so amazing, striking everybody out. I don't know if everybody realizes that Terry Francona is bringing him in to the most difficult point of the ball game. That's how he's using him, whether it's the 5th inning against the 3, 4, 5 hitters with a runner on first base. Not only not only is he striking everybody out, he's being thrown into the worst part of the ball game, the biggest fire, and he's being asked to extinguish it, and he's doing it historically. I mean, this guy's been on fire, Cap. So as a whole, I'm going to go Cubs bullpen. The two guys at the end, between Cody Allen, who is absolutely ridiculously good, and he got a 6 slider. He and Miller, they're pretty good too.
Cap, one thing that got my attention in the postseason, and that was the Indians playing the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays tried to put together a team that would slug their way to the World Series. Tremendous hitters, putting the numbers up during the regular season. They got shut down by this Indian staff and their bullpen, so that got my attention. So I want to see these guys personal and see up close and see what they got, but they did a job against the Blue Jays.
They did, and knowing that Carrasco and Salazar unavailable, those are 2 elite starters the Cubs targeted last offseason, tried to trade for.
Oh, yeah, no, this is what got them there. I mean, I don't know if the Indians, I think the Indians would even admit to all of us that they're, somewhat surprised that they've been able to accomplish this, losing those 2 guys, but they are here because they won the division, that they had a great, successful season. Their offense has been really good. The acquisition of Miller has been huge, and then the ability to use him in varying roles. But those 2 losses are significant, Cap. It's what brings us all the way back to the question about Kluber tonight in the ballgame. He is a legit ace. I mean, we all know that, but the problem that you have is if you lose a Kluber start, where do you go from there? The Bauer question, legit. He's got a bandaged up finger. Don't know how good he can be, how long he can go. Tomlin, same case. He had a moment this year where they had to take him out of the rotation and get him right. Their Game 4 starter potentially is Salazar, maybe, or a young man who's made 2 starts in his big league career. I mean, that's where they're at, and so that bullpen can absolutely be exposed by the Cubs if, in fact, they start to wear down, get those guys in 2, 3, and 4, even with Kluber going tonight.
All right, Cubs bullpen wins our fan poll question. Expect nothing less from those great Cub fans out there. Thank you for voting at csnchicago.com/vote. Now, let's hear from Cubs manager Joe Madden on benching his $184 million right fielder.
He's been fine. I mean, he always handles everything well. The contract specifically, I think human nature, sometimes you're going to see that happening. I think you could actually make an argument for other guys that have signed in the past, and things maybe in the first year don't go exactly according to plan. However, I really feel strongly that they will with him. I do. He's an incredibly wonderful young man, and he's very strong mentally. He just has some things to work out, honestly, from the offensive side with the swing. That's I'm not saying anything new to you guys, but that's what comes next. The offseason is going to be really important for him. But over the course of this next week, I'm certain he's going to do something to help us win this whole thing.
All right, let's take another time out here on Cubs Postseason Live, brought to you by the great people at the Fields Auto Group in Glenview. When we return, we'll look at a couple of the young stars of this series. They're both original shortstop. One's still there, one's now at second. We're talking Baez, Lindor, next on CSN.
Speed always wins, especially in my business. With slow internet from the phone company, you can't keep up. You're stuck, watching spinning wheels and progress bars until someone else scoops your story.
Switch to Comcast Business with high-speed internet up to 10 gigabits per second.
You wouldn't pick a slow race car, then why settle for slow internet?
Comcast Business, built for speed, built for business.
Welcome to the Apt Showroom, one of the top appliance retailers in the U.S. Explore our full line of Thermador appliances that will inspire and empower you to imagine design and bring to life your dream kitchen. Our team of product experts will work with you, your builder, and designer from the very first sketch to the very last detail. Discover how Thermador is personalized to the way you cook and bring the ingredients of entertaining to life. Visit us at Apt, pleasing people since 1936.
You know the feeling. The rush of every roll, every flip, sip, bite, note, and night. You know the feeling. Get it at Ameristar.
It is I, Count Babila, and my ghoul friends, here to save you big money on a new Toyota. Hurry in now to Oak Brook Toyota.
During our sales spectacular, lease a 2017 Toyota Camry for only $189 a month or get 0% financing.
Bob Rohrman.
Bob Rohrman's Oak Brook Toyota in Westmont, only 5 minutes west of the Tri-State on Ogden Avenue.
It's an exciting time. I've got some friends that I've made over my years in Chicago here, and they've been lifelong diehard Cubs fans. So, since I've met them, it's really, I've learned a lot about the Cubs and a lot about baseball here in Chicago. So, it's been fun. It's been an exciting time for baseball in Chicago, and the Cubs are doing well. So, we're behind them. We're rooting them on.
There's Brent Seabrook of the Blackhawks. Welcome back to Cubs Postseason Live, brought to you by the Fields Auto Group. I'm David Kaplan with Ryan Sandberg, the Hall of Famer, and Todd Hollandsworth, the 96 National League Rookie of the Year. I want to ask you guys, you're both former Cubs. What is it like we don't have Ernie and Ronnie. We have Billy still. We have Rhino coming back. You're back there. There are some other players. Greg Maddux says he's going to be around. What is it like for former Cubs to come back and see this?
Absolutely love it. There's some frustration out there. There hasn't been a day gone by that I hadn't thought about the '84 and coming up one game short to get to the World Series until this season, until last Saturday when they clinched and being part of it, and being back with the Cubs. A lot of pain went away, and right now I'm living in the moment and living with this team on being at the World Series, not even thinking about '84.
It's unbelievable.
And I'll tell you what, I haven't thought that way since '84. And '89 was the other chance that I had to be in postseason. Right. But I've ran into those teammates. I've run into Sutcliffe and Sanderson and Trout and Dwight Smith and Jerome Walton and Mark Grayson. We still talk about that when we're together at a golf tournament or the Cubs convention. We talk about those days and wanting to get here. We wanted to be in the World Series. That was our goal. We had a couple of opportunities. We came up short. So I know that all those guys that I played with and have been in touch with are all into this. And loving every minute of it. Now we got to win 4 more games.
Got to get it done. How about for you?
I would teach all the kids at home. I know your mom and dad say don't be jealous, right? We don't want to teach our kids to be jealous, and I found over the last 3 days that I'm incredibly jealous. I'm jealous of this group. I came here with the dream and the vision that my team in '04 was going to be the team that was going to get here, that we were going to be the group, that we had the staff, that we had the bullpen, that we had the offense, that we had the bench. We had it all, and we didn't get it done. And I felt like there was failure in a lot of different places on that team. But I love this group. I've watched them play from day one as this whole thing has come together. And at the end, like I said, I don't want to be jealous, but there's part of me that's jealous of these guys. I wanted to be in the uniform and be what these guys are right now.
I appreciate your honesty. I would have said that, but I didn't want to.
I got no issues saying it.
That's the right answer.
I'm jealous. I really am. Honestly, I moved here. I moved to Chicago for this. I raised my kids here for what I thought was going to happen.
You were also the guy who said, bring all the young kids up at one time.
Yeah,
don't just piecemeal it. Bring them all up and let them develop together.
Well, and the important thing with that, and I'm so glad that the organization was willing to do that, but when you're able to bring up a crew together, they're able to struggle, fail together, learn together, experience the game at the highest level together. I didn't have that. That wasn't given to me when I was a Dodger coming up. And what I went through was trying to figure out a lot of things for myself. I was with 8-year, 10-year, 12-year vets. Now, they treated me very, very well, and they raised me right, but they couldn't relate to a 22-year-old at the time, and that's what I was going through. Instead, Theo said, you know what? I get the clock. I mean, we get this whole thing there, starting the career off, but at the same time, let's get these guys up as close together as we can. Let them play together. Let them learn together. Let them fail together. I enjoy the last 2 years as much as thinking back to the moments where I've watched certain individuals struggle and fail and recover. The Baez story, the Addison Russell story, when he was a non-factor early on in his career offensively. He had some big games, but he wasn't reliable to what he is now and to what we see from these guys. It's been a fun progression. And honestly, if the organization hadn't done that, I'm not sure we'd be here if he hadn't brought them all up together.
All right, let's go back inside the stadium. Our Kelly Crow with Dexter Fowler.
Well, guys, here with Dexter Fowler before Game 1 of the World Series here against the Indians. That has a nice ring to it, Dexter, after taking BP here. What do you think of the bright lights here and the game ahead of you?
beautiful field, and I think everybody's ready to go. The boys out there swinging bats well. It's a little cold out here, but hopefully we can warm it up a little bit.
What do you think about this matchup? I know we've been talking about it for a couple days. You got Kluber this evening. In terms of what you've been doing all season long and getting this team started and rolling, what's the approach tonight?
It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. That's a good pitcher over there. We realize that, but we face the best of the best, and we've excelled, so hopefully we go out here and do the same thing.
None of us were sure. I don't think even Kyle Schwarber was sure as of 6 days ago, but here he is in the lineup tonight. How does that change this Cubs team as you guys come out and just the lineup that exists now?
Just hearing his name, it brings joy to us as a team. Just everything. We've seen him go through his rehab, and we couldn't be happier for him. And Kyle knows his body, and we trust him, and hopefully he'll come out here and give us a good push.
Dexter, you told us before the season this is what you came back for. Is there anything when you get in that huddle tonight with the guys that you say, a message that is just ringing throughout this team as you're 4 wins away from getting the goal finally done? Yeah,
we realize we're not done. We're not done, and we're not done till we're winning the last game of the season. I think everybody has that goal in mind, and we're all on the same page, so no better day to get it started than today.
All right, Dexter Fowler locked in. Thank you so much, Dex.
Thank you.
Guys.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Now let's talk about the 2011 draft. Pick number 8, the Cleveland Indians select Francisco Lindor. Pick number 9, the Cubs get the guy that they say they wanted all along. They wanted Javi Baez. He's a little more flash. Lindor's a little quieter. Lindor reminds me the way he plays, the way he carries up, more like you, where Javi's more like Russell Westbrook, in your face all the time. Would you agree with that?
I would. Both can play is the bottom line.
No question. Tremendous
players. How they carry themselves. They're both exciting players in their own ways. Lindor, he gets on there, runs the bases, and makes tremendous plays. He's a catalyst to the team. He creates some excitement for the fans. Javi Baez does the same thing. All of a sudden, with the way that he's grown, with his defense. Flash or confidence, whatever you want to call it, Javi gets the job done, and both players fun to watch.
I don't know if there's a whole lot of difference between the two of these guys, Cappy. I actually think it might be more about the cities.
Who has more power?
Oh, Javi's got more power. There's no doubt about it. Both these kids can play the game. I mean, I'm not even talking about their skill sets. I was just merely speaking about their personalities and what we see them, display on a daily basis. Lindor, to me, is an incredible leader, and that really is his story here in Cleveland. From the people that I've talked to, they've told me that you would not believe the impact he's had in the clubhouse. Now, is he a 300 hitter? He's done it for 2 seasons. Is he a tremendous defender? Is he a game changer? He is. He hits third in their lineup for a reason. But I really just think that flash is absolutely part of who he is. The biggest difference is one plays in Cleveland every day, and the other one plays in Chicago on the north side, which, Rhino, if you get to do that, you get to play for a 100-win team, you're going to get a lot of attention. So the Baez thing, I think, really is just more about us seeing him and talking about him a lot more, especially on the national level. But Lindor is really, really good.
All right, got to take our last time out. We come back, we'll have these guys give their keys to the game, our key performers, and we'll get you set. Cubs, Indians, Game 1, 2016 World Series. You're watching Cubs Postseason Live on CSN.
Rising from the Midwestern Plains, south of Chicago, is the award-winning Riverside Healthcare. Compassionate hands, focused on healing, helping you along life's journey. Professionals who offer hope and innovation. Experts using the latest technology to solve problems and welcome new beginnings. Seeing things clearly is the first step. Seeing that you're well is what we hold dear. Riverside Healthcare, putting well within reach.
We started with the class-leading RX. We gave it paddle shifters to help you command the road. A sport mode to help you control the road. And a sport-tuned suspension to help you connect with the road. The Lexus RX F-Sport. This is the RX Elevated. Lease the 2016 RX 350 for $419 a month for 36 months. See your Lexus dealer.
Now playing on DirecTV Cinema.
Ghostbusters.
We see things no one else is willing to see. We do things others can't do.
Oh, you gonna get it now? This is just right.
Ghostbusters. Movies start at Channel 125.
Here's 10 reasons to buy from Willowbrook Kia and Berwyn Kia.
You'll always be treated respectfully.
Preferred customer benefits.
Free courtesy transportation.
Extended service hours.
On-site collision center. Over 500 new Kias in stock.
0.9% financing available on certified pre-owned Kias.
Value pricing.
Easy financing.
Our low-pressure sales approach.
And that's just the start of all you get at Willowbrook and Berwyn Kia.
All right, here's the list of Major League Baseball's home run leaders at the time of the last Cubs World Series appearance. Your leader, Babe Ruth, with 714. Jimmy Fox, 534. Mel Ott, 510. Lou Gehrig, 493. And Al Simmons, 307. That's way the heck back there. All right, welcome back, Cubs Postseason Live. We're wrapping up here. Time for Todd's Fields Auto Group. Cubs, keys to the game.
There you go. Keys coming right now. All right, don't wait around. We talked about this. Remember back to the NLCS, right? Oh, Clayton Kershaw, our lefty, that lefty that made the start against the Chicago Cubs. First game throws a two-hitter. Then the Cubs awoke. Game 6, they got it on. They got aggressive. They got aggressive early in the count. Well, now listen, Corey Kluber is very much the exact same way. You need to be aggressive against aces. Elites, typically early in the count. It's where you get your best strikes. Bottom line is this, I can give you numerical evidence, whatever you want. First pitch against Corey Kluber, 339. 1-0, 313. 0-1, 303. 1-1, 333. Those are all good numbers against the guy early in the count. From that point forward, if you're still in the at-bat, it only gets tougher because those breaking balls are starting to come, and Kluber has got some breaking balls. So again, look for the Cubs. I'm really crossing my fingers on this one because they don't always like to do that against a guy they haven't seen before, which is come out swinging those bats. We'll see. But again, swinging early and getting on that fastball, I think is going to be big. The Indians' running game, I think it's a huge factor in this ball game in that I think we are absolutely going to defend it. I think it's going to be a non-issue when it's all said and done, but they want to make it a big issue. Hey, we stole 134 bases. You've heard everybody else talking about it. The Indians are going to change this game with the running game. I say, no way, Jose. That is not going to happen tonight. John Lester will have his way. He will be making pitches, and I don't think that running game is going to be anything that they made it out to be. My third key, plain and simple, one thing to say, Schwarber. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Rhino? For me, John Lester, go out there and do your thing. He can set the tone for the starting pitching. Got Arrieta tomorrow. Sometimes guys feed off of each other and compete against each other. If John Lester can set the tone, have his game, quality game, set the tone for the series, Arrieta will want to go out there and do the same thing. So it all starts tonight with the starting pitching for me. John's got help behind the plate with David Ross, and he has help behind him. So he has a full team of defenders. Pound the zone, set the tone in this cool temperature, and make it tough. But he starts it for me, John Lester.
All right, key performers. Rhino, who do you want?
I'm going with the guy that's been there before, Ben Zobrist.
Good pick.
Show the young players that this is another game. Have fun, and maybe he'll do something early on with the glove or the bat to set the tone. Ben Zobrist.
Holly.
Your guy is my guy tonight. Anthony Rizzo. Boom.
I wasn't taking him.
Yeah, you were.
Stole him right there.
You've been taking him all year. He's my guy tonight.
I wasn't taking him.
There you go. Anthony Rizzo.
I'm going to just take an under-the-radar selection. I'm going to go with Kyle Schwarber.
Flair for the dramatic, right?
Flair for the dramatic. How cool would it be if he runs into one tonight, takes it out of the ballpark? Would be just an amazing thing to see.
That'd be a whole nother story if he does
That'd be a whole nother story as long as the Cubs find a way to win Game 1 of the 2016 World Series. All right, when the game goes final, you flip on over here. We will have full post-game coverage. Joe Madden, his press conference. John Lester. Kelly will have interviews with Luke all over the locker room. So make sure you join us here as soon as the game goes final. For Rhino, for Holly, I'm Cap. We'll see you after the ball game. The World Series has the Cubs in it. It starts now. We'll see you a little later on CSN.